Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shujar and these are the headlines. President-elect Joe Biden says he wants to restore the soul of the United States, vowing to unify the country. In his victory address in Delaware, Biden says his first task is to get the coronavirus pandemic under control. The 77-year-old Democrat declared victory after he overtook Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, securing 279 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has made history by being elected as the first female, first Black, and first Asian American vice president. Trump refuses to concede the defeat, saying the election is far from over and it will be decided by the courts. Indian troops have martyred another civilian in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The youth was targeted during a cordon and search operation in the Kupwara district. The occupied valley has been under New Delhi's crushing curfew and communication blackout since the 5th of October 2019. The Afghan government claims to have killed 30 Taliban fighters in counterattacks in the Ghazni, Khost, and Helmand provinces. The defense ministry says 16 others were wounded in the ground operations. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Democrat Joe Biden has won the race for the White House convincingly, crossing the 270 electoral votes mark. The president-elect has set uniting Americans and taking on the COVID-19 pandemic surging in the country as his top priority. After an exhausting 4 days of waiting after polls closed on Tuesday, Joe Biden declared victory after he overtook Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, securing 279 electoral votes. In his victory address to Americans deeply divided along political and racial lines over the past 4 years, Biden said he wants to restore the soul of the United States, vowing to unify the country. Addressing Trump supporters, Biden said he understood their disappointment and asked to give each other a chance.
I said at the outset, I wanted to represent this campaign to represent and look like America. We've done that. Now that's what I want the administration to look like and act like. For all those of you who voted for President Trump, I understand the disappointment tonight. I've lost a couple times myself, but now let's give each other a chance. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric, lower the temperature, see each other again, listen to each other again. And to make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as our enemies. They are not our enemies. They are Americans. They're Americans.
Joe Biden's running mate, Kamala Harris, has made history to be the first female, first Black, and first Asian American vice president-elect. Addressing the crowd in Delaware, Kamala Harris said the president-elect had the audacity to break a substantial barrier that exists in the United States, selecting a woman as his vice president.
But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump refuses to concede defeat, saying the election is far from over and it will be decided by the courts. White House officials say they're abiding by the statutory requirements but declining to provide details. Although the United States law maps out instructions for an orderly presidential transition, the Trump to Biden transition appears to be a bumpy road ahead. A festive atmosphere took over the streets across the United States as thousands of jubilant Joe Biden supporters celebrated his victory in the presidential election. Days of pent-up post-election anxiety gave way to spontaneous street celebrations as Joe Biden supporters cheered news of his presidential win with a cacophony of banging pots and pans and honking horns in cities across the United States. Hundreds of people danced, cheered, and waved flags just yards from the White House grounds. In Washington Square Park, young supporters ran through a fountain and danced. In Times Square, cyclists performed stunts to celebrate their new leader's victory. In downtown Los Angeles, a mass protest against Donald Trump turned into a victory celebration.
I'm a little bummed that the country still feels so divided. I think we would have hoped for a more overwhelming anti-Trump kind of stance, but I think it just shows how much work that Biden has to do. He's got a lot of uniting to do, and I really hope he's up to the task, honestly. Oh my gosh, I feel so ecstatic. I'm so happy, and I think I just feel relieved. I just feel relieved. I can breathe, and today we're gonna celebrate. Today, all day, nothing can bring me down.
Cher, Ariana Grande, and Kim Kardashian were among the celebrities who cheered minutes after Joe Biden's win. Rallies by hundreds of supporters of Donald Trump were more muted in size and scope compared with the festive crowds.
I encourage President Trump to continue his lawsuits and, fight for, the stealing of this, to stop the stealing of this election.
While there were some isolated instances of Trump and Biden supporters confronting one another, however, there were no immediate reports of violence or other unruly behavior. Leaders around the globe are congratulating U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. They hoped for better ties with America under the new administration. Pakistan's President Dr. Arif Alvi congratulated newly elected President Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Prime Minister Imran Khan expressed hope to work with the United States for peace in the region and Afghanistan. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani says the next United States government should compensate for Trump's mistakes. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas congratulated Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he is looking forward to work with the newly elected president and vice president. In her congratulatory message, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the transatlantic friendship is irreplaceable if they master great challenges of the time. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said London is looking forward to work closely together on shared priorities, from climate change to trade and security. In a tweet, European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said she warmly congratulates Joe Biden on his victory. Japan's Prime Minister Yoshida Suga said he is looking forward to further strengthening the alliance and ensuring peace, freedom, and prosperity. Meanwhile, contrary to many others, Mexico's President Andrés López Obrador says he will wait for the electoral process to be over to congratulate any winner. The Afghan government claims to have killed 30 Taliban fighters in counterattacks. The Defense Ministry said operations were carried out in the Ghazni, Khost, and Helmand provinces. The ministry said 16 others were wounded. It said a large amount of Taliban's weapons and ammunition were also seized. The Taliban have yet to comment on the claim. Meanwhile, in Doha, Qatar, the Taliban said they discussed the upcoming Geneva conference and international aid with the Finnish delegation. Taliban spokesperson Dr. Mohammed Naim said the two sides agreed to hold further meetings on issues of relevance. Indian troops have martyred another civilian in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The youth was targeted during a cordon and search operation in the Kupwara district. The operation in Mikhail area of the district was ongoing till last reports came in. The Indian troops have martyred over 150 Kashmiri civilians across the disputed valley this year alone. The occupied valley has been under New Delhi's crushing curfew and communication blackout since the August 5th of 2019. Turkey says Armenia must withdraw from Azeri lands it is occupying in the Nagorno-Karabakh region. In a statement, Ankara said President Tayyip Erdogan held a telephone call with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. In a statement, Erdogan said Armenia must be convinced to sit down at the negotiating table. The Kremlin said Putin informed Erdogan about his phone calls with the Azeri and Armenian leaders. Putin said the leaders focused on finding options for a swift cessation of hostilities and a political settlement. It read all sides confirmed a mutual readiness to cooperate in order to achieve a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan has reported civilian killings by the Armenian forces in Tatar, Brada, Akhdam, Akhjabadi, and Gulbaldi regions. The Azeri Defense Ministry said its forces hit military targets of Armenia in retaliatory measures. Over 1,200 people have been killed in nearly 6 weeks of fighting in and around the Nagorno-Karabakh. Voters in Myanmar are casting their ballots in the country's second general election since the military ceded absolute power in 2011. Over 37 million people are eligible to vote in the polls set to elect the upper and lower houses of the parliament. Of the 224 seats in the House, 168 are directly elected, while 56 are military appointees. Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy is expected to win the second term, but pre-poll surveys show Suu Kyi's party is likely to get lesser seats this time around. The Human Rights Watch has decreed the elections as fundamentally flawed. Suu Kyi's government's reputation crumbled internationally amid allegations of Rohingya Muslim genocide. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for elections to be held fairly and orderly. Lebanon's President Michel Aoun has asked for proof against his son-in-law's Gibran Bassel to justify the latest U.S. sanctions. On Friday, Washington sanctioned Bassel over charges of corruption and human rights violations. Lebanese presidency says Aoun has asked his government to obtain the documents related to the accusations. It also said the president called for handing over the documents to the Lebanese judiciary to take the necessary measures. In September, Aoun issued similar directives after Washington blacklisted 2 former government ministers. Bassel heads Lebanon's biggest Christian political bloc, the Free Patriotic Movement. The United Nations has warned around 9 million Ethiopians face the risk of displacement among conflict in the Tigray region. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says the ongoing conflict has disrupted supplies of food and other aid. In a report, it said nearly 600,000 people in Tigray depend on food aid to survive. It added 1 million people in the region are receiving other forms of support. The statement reads, clashes between government and regional forces are currently ongoing in 8 locations. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has launched a military campaign against Tigray's People Liberation Front. Abiy has cautioned civilians in the region to avoid mass gatherings in wake of the airstrikes. The conflict has triggered fears of a potential civil war that could destabilize the country of 110 million people. France has registered record over 80,000 COVID-19 cases, with a tally crossing 1.7 million. Globally, the virus has claimed nearly 1.25 million lives and infected 49.7 million people. A virus-related roundup in this report.
Europe has once again become the virus hotspot, with record cases in every other country on every other day. Even though France has been under lockdown for a little over a week now, the country continues to report record spike in cases. The country's death toll has crossed 40,000 after 306 people lost their life to the virus overnight. Portugal has imposed a nighttime curfew as the country enters a 15-day state of emergency after infections hit record. While Germany reported more than 23,000 cases in the last 24 hours, several thousand came out to protest the government's restrictions. Scuffles broke out between coronavirus skeptics and police in the streets of Leipzig.
We can say that it is still peaceful. In various parts in the city, there are some individual quarrels between people wearing masks and who are understandably upset about people not wearing them with regards to health safety. The situation sometimes gets a bit heated. We had several incidences where we had to intervene.
Over in Asia, some countries are already witnessing the second wave of the novel coronavirus, but India remains the worst hit in the region and the second worst hotspot in the entire world. The virus has claimed 126,000 lives in India so far, infecting more than 8.5 million. Medics in the country say the government has failed to implement strict rules.
The cases have resurged in some countries and probably in Delhi and Mumbai in India, so the people should continue taking precautions. People became negligent for some time. They are seen roaming in the markets, in crowded places, and in the election rallies without masks. The chances of the resurgence of coronavirus cases will increase in such a situation.
The US continues to be on the top of the worst hit countries. Texas has become the first U.S. state to exceed 1 million coronavirus cases. Over in Latin America, Mexico's death rate is alarmingly high, while the caseload approaches 1 million. Health officials have said the real number of infections and deaths is likely significantly higher.
In Pakistan, 25 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the country's death toll has risen to 6,968. It said over 1,400 people tested positive for the disease overnight. The ministry said there are nearly 18,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It said out of over 343,000 countrywide cases, more than 318,000 have recovered so far. The ministry said over 149,000 cases have been detected in the province of Sindh, while the Punjab has reported over 106,000 cases. Argentina has agreed to a deal with AstraZeneca over its COVID-19 vaccine. Under the deal, the South American country will acquire around 22 million doses of the vaccine. AstraZeneca is developing the vaccine in collaboration with Oxford University. The drug maker says the delivery time frame depends on the success of the ongoing trials. In a statement, it said after regulatory authorities' approval, Argentina will receive the drug in the first half of 2021. Argentina has logged 1.23 million cases of COVID-19 and over 33,000 deaths. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Former President of Bolivia, Evo Morales, says he will return to his country from Argentina tomorrow. He will return to Bolivia after the inauguration of President-elect Luis Arce. Speaking to reporters in Buenos Aires, Morales said he will be crossing the border and hope there won't be any legal problems. The former president will be returning nearly 1 year after resigning under pressure. He faced allegations of fraud during the presidential election. Morales remained the president of Arce's party, the Movement Towards Socialism. He also played a key role in picking Arce as the party's candidate. Japan has formally declared Crown Prince Fujimoto as the first in line to the chrysanthemum throne. The ceremony was scheduled for April but postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. This concludes a series of imperial succession rituals that began in May last year when his brother Naruhito ascended to the throne. Better known as Prince Akishino, is one of just 3 heirs to the throne along with Hashihito and Prince Hitachi. Imperial Japanese law only permits men to inherit the throne, making Naruhito's daughter, Princess Eiko, ineligible. Moves to amend the law lost steam when Ashinko's wife bore a son, Hashihito, in 2006. Tropical storm Eta is lashing the Caribbean with a torrential rainfall and damaging winds as it approaches Cuba. The National Hurricane Center predicts isolated rainfall totals of over 2 feet for both Cuba and the Cayman Islands in the coming days. It said the high rainfall could lead to life-threatening flash floods and landslides in the area with higher terrain. In the United States of Florida, an emergency has been declared for 8 countries as the storm approaches. Earlier, Eta unleashed havoc in Central American state of Guatemala, killing over 100 people in mudslides. Bad weather continues to hamper rescue efforts while roads are still blocked and large areas remain flooded. The World Health Organization says 6 countries have reported coronavirus cases among farm minks. These include Denmark, the United States, Italy, and the Netherlands, Sweden, and Spain. The WHO said it will review the biosafety of mink farms worldwide. 5 so-called clusters of coronavirus mutations derived from the farm of minks in Denmark have now been found in 214 people. The Danish State Serum Institute says most problematic cluster 5 may have resistance to antibodies with spike protein. The Danish government says it will euthanize all minks in Denmark. One strain which has prompted Denmark to cull its entire herd of mink has, however, only been found in 12 people. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom has banned any entry to visitors from Denmark due to the outbreaks of coronavirus on Danish mink farms. At the third China International Import Expo in East China, Shanghai, vehicles with advanced technologies and innovative designs are catching visitors' eye. More in this report.
Battery electric vehicles are the mainstream in the auto area at China's Import Expo this year. Almost all famous brands have brought their new models or concept vehicles. The most eye-catching vehicle is a golden Apollo Intensa Emotion hypercar featuring the first all-carbon fiber production chassis of its kind. It weighs only 1.2 tons and realizes a 0 to 100 meters per hour acceleration within 2.7 seconds only. With the price of $3 million, the car has already been sold. Automated driving is another keyword in this year's exhibition.
Automated driving is a long industrial chain which can't be completed by one company. It requires the cooperation of original equipment manufacturer and suppliers. So that's one reason for our focus on the CIIE, because it helps us to deepen the relations with our cooperative partner while developing new partnership.
A Mercedes-Benz Arox double-decker motorhome also surprised visitors with its functions. The motorhome consists of 3 bedrooms and a living room, together with a well-equipped kitchen and a bathroom. This all-terrain motorhome sells for nearly $1.6 million. The third CIIE kicked off on November 5th and will run until November 10th.
A university in East China is using robots to deliver parcels for its students during the Singles' Day shopping season. More in this report.
Alibaba launched the annual online shopping promotion on November 11, 2009. Many Chinese young people celebrate this as a Singles' Day. They picked the date because 11/11 resembles 4 bear sticks, a Chinese term for a bachelor. Now, with the help of robots, students at Zhejiang University can get their packages in 10 minutes after booking for the service on their mobile phones.
The robots will arrive at our dormitory building and we just need to come downstairs at the appointed time and location to pick up our packages.
The robots now deliver more than 3,000 parcels daily in the Zhejiang campus. The campus receives more than 5 million parcels every year.
China says it has sent the world's first 6G experiment satellite into space. Local media said the experimental satellite will verify the terahertz communication technology in space. The report said it is among 3 Chinese satellites that are successfully launched into orbit. Developed by an Argentinian company, they were launched from a center in the northern Shaanxi province. In September, China launched its 3rd maritime satellite into space to help Beijing's mapping efforts. Meanwhile, in China's new commercial rocket, Cirrus-1 has completed its maiden flight in the northwest Gansu province. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. In the English Premier League clash, West Ham United beat Fulham 1-0. Victory for West Ham lifted them to 11th spot with 11 points. Fulham's Ademola Lookman spurned a glorious chance to earn a point for the visitors with a botched last-gap penalty. Thomas Susek scored the only goal in the stoppage time. West Ham traveled to Sheffield United on the 22nd of November, while Fulham host Everton on the 21st of November. Earlier, Chelsea continued their unbeaten run with a 4-1 win over Sheffield United. Chelsea are on the 3rd spot with 15 points, while Sheffield remain on the bottom at the Premier League with 1 point. In the Spanish La Liga, Barcelona have beat Real Betis 5-2 at the Camp Nou for their first win in 5 games. Lionel Messi scored a brace, helping Barcelona move up to 8th with 11 points. Ousmane Dembélé opened the scoring for Barcelona, which was equalized by Antonio Sanabria just before the interval. But 4 second-half goals were more than enough to seal the resounding victory for Barcelona. Earlier, Huesca drew their home fixture 1-1 with Eibar. Rafi Amir and Esteban Bergen scored goals in nail-biting encounter. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.